Under the blistering heat of a Texas afternoon, the highway shimmered like liquid silver, until traffic suddenly came to a halt. But it wasn't a crash or construction causing the jam. It was something far more unexpected and alive. A tiny bobcat kitten stood right in the middle of the road, eyes wide, breathing fast, and completely unafraid. When Officer Emily Carter arrived on the scene, she expected to move a wild animal off the road, maybe call in a ranger. But as she stepped closer, something froze her in place. The kitten didn't run. In fact, it walked straight up to her, looked her in the eye, and meowed. It wasn't lost. It was looking for help. That's when things took a turn. This wasn't just an odd encounter. It was the beginning of a story that would change lives, challenge everything we think we know about wild creatures, and ultimately reveal a rescue no one could have predicted. Emily Carter thought she'd seen just about everything during her years patrolling the remote back roads of Texas, but nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared her for this. The young bobcat now sat quietly beside her patrol truck, unrestrained and unnervingly calm. No growls, no signs of fear. Just a steady, unblinking gaze, as if it were waiting, as if it had come with purpose. As Emily crouched down to take a closer look, she noticed something that made her freeze. Wrapped around the animal's back leg was a thin nylon strap, almost invisible, but clearly unnatural. Attached to it was a small tracking device. She called it in immediately. Not to animal control, something about this felt different. Instead, she reached out to the state wildlife office. Within an hour, Dr. James Holloway, a seasoned wildlife biologist with decades of fieldwork under his belt, arrived on scene. Dr. Holloway examined the tracker and frowned. "This isn't one of ours," he said, turning the small device over in his hand. "Not veterinary. Looks like a manual geolocator. These are usually carried by hikers or field researchers, something you'd activate to send out a location signal if you got into trouble." He tapped a few buttons, pulled up the serial number, and ran a quick search. What he found changed everything. The device had been registered to Daniel Reeves, a local wildlife ecologist and field rehabilitator, and he'd been missing for over 24 hours. Last seen heading out alone into the wilderness to track a mountain lion, Daniel had vanished without a trace. Until now, Emily's heart pounded. The pieces began to align in a way that made the hairs on her arms stand up. "Are you saying this bobcat came out of the forest carrying his tracking device?" Dr. Holloway didn't answer right away. He was watching the young bobcat, who had risen silently and was now walking away, slowly, deliberately, toward the tree line. Every few steps, it paused and looked back. It wanted them to follow. The sun was starting to drop behind the hills, casting long shadows across the forest floor. With barely a word between them, Emily and Dr. Holloway grabbed their packs and followed. The trail was winding and uneven, full of brambles and downed branches. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became, until even the rustling leaves seemed to hold their breath. Luna, as Emily had instinctively started calling her, moved with confidence, not like a lost animal, but like a guide who knew exactly where she was going. After nearly an hour of hiking, Holloway paused and checked the device's signal again. Strong, very strong. And then he froze. "Oh my God," he whispered. "It's broadcasting from less than 400 feet away. Daniel's ID is still active. That means..." "He's alive?" Emily asked, hardly believing it. "Or, he was very recently." Adrenaline surged through them both. Luna had stopped ahead at a ridge, standing perfectly still, ears twitching. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, she bounded into the underbrush. Emily and Holloway took off after her. Neither of them knew what they were about to find, but both understood deep down that this wasn't just about tracking a missing person anymore. Something deeper was unfolding, something that would test everything they thought they knew about instinct, intelligence, and the invisible threads that connect us all. Luna didn't hesitate. With a kind of determined grace, The little bobcat pushed through the thick underbrush, casting quick glances back to make sure Officer Carter and Dr. Holloway were following. Her movements weren't random. Every step had purpose. She wasn't just running wild, she was leading them. The trail grew steeper, the trees more tangled, and the forest more silent. Emily felt it too, something heavy in the air, like a whisper of urgency. Then, as they rounded a sharp bend, Luna froze. Her ears twitched. She let out a sharp, insistent cry. Emily rushed forward, and there he was. Down a narrow ravine, partially hidden beneath a tangle of branches and leaves, lay a man. His hiking gear was caked in dirt. One leg was twisted unnaturally beneath a fallen tree trunk, and his face was pale from exhaustion. He was conscious, but barely. "Oh my God," Emily breathed, already reaching for her radio. "We've got a man down. Send paramedics, coordinates incoming." Dr. Holloway slid down beside the man and began checking his vitals. "It's Daniel Reeves," he said, almost in disbelief. "He's alive." Daniel's voice was weak but clear enough. "Luna, she found you?" The look on Emily's face said it all. Luna had done more than find them. She'd saved him. As emergency responders worked to stabilize Daniel and extract him from the ravine, Luna stayed close. She didn't pace or panic like most wild animals might. She watched intently as if she knew exactly what was happening, and she didn't run, not once. Back at the edge of the clearing, as the stretcher was loaded into the ambulance, Emily finally asked Daniel the question that had been nagging at her. "Why? Was there a tracking device on Luna?" Daniel gave a tired smile, one part pride and one part desperation. "She's part of a rehab program I run. We were prepping her for release next week. When I fell, I knew no one would find me in time, so I did the only thing I could think of." He'd attached his emergency tracking marker to Luna's leg, whispered a single command, "Go," and hoped to whatever forces of nature might be listening that she'd understand. And somehow she did. Dr. Holloway was stunned. That's not normal bobcat behavior. That's cognition, communication, problem solving. Emily looked down at Luna, who was now curled at her feet, tail flicking softly. "She's not just an animal," she said quietly. "She's something else." Later that evening, with Daniel safe in the hospital and Luna temporarily housed at a nearby wildlife care center, the gravity of what had just happened began to settle in. A bobcat kitten had navigated a human environment, sought out help, and led rescuers straight to someone in danger. It wasn't instinct, it was intention, and it made everyone involved wonder, if Luna could do this, what else might she be capable of? This wasn't the end of the story, not even close, because as Luna's true potential started to surface, so did a much bigger question, one that would soon challenge everything they thought they knew about the boundaries between the wild and the human world. The moment Luna arrived at the Hill Country Wildlife Center, something shifted in the atmosphere. She wasn't just another rescued animal. From the way she observed the staff with calm curiosity, to how she responded when someone called her name, there was a quiet intelligence in her eyes, almost human-like. Officer Emily Carter couldn't stop thinking about it. She had seen dozens of wild animals rescued over the years, but none had ever stayed so alert, so present. As Daniel Reeves recovered in the hospital, he remained constantly updated about Luna's condition. Dr. James Holloway personally ensured she received the best care available. Though, to be fair, Luna seemed less like a patient and more like a very small, furry therapist. She'd sit quietly near injured deer, watch over orphaned raccoons, and even pawed gently at a zookeeper's leg when they looked stressed. It was uncanny and strangely heartwarming. One sunny afternoon, Daniel was finally well enough to visit the center. When Luna saw him through the fence, she didn't hesitate. With the kind of emotion you'd expect from a long-lost friend, she leapt toward him, not aggressively but with purpose. She pressed her small body against the gate and let out a low, vibrating sound, somewhere between a chirp and a purr. Daniel's eyes welled up. Everyone nearby stopped in their tracks. "You see that?" Dr. Holloway whispered to Emily. "She remembers him, and not just remembers, she trusts him." This behavior sparked something deeper in Holloway's mind. The usual protocol would be to prepare Luna for release, especially since she was nearly mature and had shown survival skills in the wild. But what if Luna wasn't meant to go back into the forest? What if her role in this rescue story was just the beginning of something greater? Over the next few weeks, the team began conducting gentle behavioral assessments. Nothing invasive, just watching how Luna reacted to different people, animals, sounds, and objects. And the results were surprising. Luna displayed selective bonding. She didn't just tolerate humans. She chose specific ones to connect with, especially those who approached her with patience and empathy. She was calm around children, attentive during training, and even responded to basic verbal cues. "She's not domesticated," Dr. Holloway clarified, "but she's also not purely wild anymore. She's in between, a bridge maybe." Daniel, still recovering but now part of the daily routine at the center, floated an idea during a staff meeting. What if Luna became a wildlife ambassador? Silence, then nods. The term wasn't new. Ambassador animals were used in various programs across the country to educate the public about conservation and the animal world. But they were usually animals born in captivity or injured beyond rehabilitation. Luna was different. She had chosen this path in her own way. She'd rescued someone. She wanted to be around people. Dr. Holloway leaned back in his chair. Imagine the impact. A real animal who survived the wild and returned, not broken but enlightened. She could change how people think about wild animals forever. Suddenly, the idea didn't seem far-fetched. It felt inevitable. Emily, watching from a corner, realized something profound. Luna wasn't just a rescue story. She was a living challenge to everything they thought they knew about wild instincts, emotional intelligence, and the blurry line between nature and nurture. What they didn't realize yet was how Luna's story was about to capture far more than just their imaginations. Word about Luna spread faster than a prairie fire. Within days of the rescue, local news stations picked up the story, then national outlets, and before long, clips of the Bobcat kitten and the heroic rescue were circulating across every social media platform imaginable. People couldn't get enough of her, the wild little animal with the heart of a hero. Donations started pouring in, not just from Texas, but from around the world. Families, schools, wildlife lovers, and even corporations pitched in to support what had now become known as the Luna Project. The mission? To build something that had never existed in Texas before, a wildlife ambassador center where animals like Luna could safely bridge the gap between the wild and the human world. Not just for rescue, but for education and conservation. Construction moved fast. Volunteers offered labor. Local businesses donated supplies, and Officer Emily Carter, once a humble patrol cop, suddenly found herself at the center of a statewide initiative. She visited the site often, still amazed at how one peculiar encounter on a sun-scorched road could transform not only her life, but the future of animal conservation. Daniel Reeves, now fully recovered, took an active role in designing the center. After all, who better to guide its mission than a man who'd been saved by the very kind of connection he now hoped to inspire in others? He brought in ideas from his years working with wildlife, enclosures that resembled real habitats, interactive observation areas, quiet corners for animals that needed space. And at the heart of it all was Luna, the Bobcat kitten, now growing into a sleek, confident adolescent, adapted beautifully to her new role. She remained selective in her social interactions, just as Dr. Holloway had described, but there was no doubt she recognized Daniel and Officer Carter. She'd greet them with soft chirps, playful tail flicks, and the occasional head bump. She wasn't domesticated, not even close, but she was something new, something in between. Kids adored her. Schools began planning field trips months in advance. Luna became the face of the center's educational programs, teaching not only about bobcats, but about the importance of preserving wild habitats, respecting animal intelligence, and understanding that the line between wild and civilized isn't always as clear as we think. In interviews, Emily often shared how Luna had changed her. "I thought I understood what it meant to protect and serve," she once said, tearing up on live TV. "But that little animal showed me a deeper meaning, one that goes beyond people, beyond laws. It's about life, all life." The impact didn't stop with the center. New legislation was proposed, aimed at funding more wildlife rehabilitation and expanding tracking systems for hikers in remote areas, all inspired by Luna's brave journey. Daniel was asked to consult on national wildlife rescue protocols, and Dr. Holloway found himself writing a book titled Wild Bonds, exploring the extraordinary connection between humans and animals in recovery. But perhaps the most touching moment came during the grand opening of the center. As the ribbon was cut and cameras flashed, Luna stood quietly behind the observation glass, watching. Officer Carter stepped forward, took a breath, and simply said, "She saved a man, she changed a state, and she's just getting started." The crowd erupted, but somewhere, deep inside that celebration, in a quiet corner of the center's garden, a small statue of Luna was placed, her eyes looking toward the forest, forever curious, forever watching. And just when it seemed like her tale had reached its peak, Luna did something unexpected. As Luna's story unfolds, it makes us wonder, how often do we underestimate the intelligence and emotional depth of wild animals? Could there be more silent messages out there, waiting for us to listen? When a tiny bobcat leads a rescue, it challenges everything we think we know about the line between human and animal worlds. What do you think? Can animals like Luna truly become bridges between wild nature and us? Have you ever experienced or heard a story where an animal seemed to reach out for help in an unexpected way? Share your thoughts below, because these stories only grow stronger when we connect and learn from each other. And if this tale moved you, there are plenty more waiting here on the channel. Stories of wild rescue, survival, and those powerful, sometimes invisible bonds between humans and animals. Don't miss out. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss a single moment of these incredible journeys. Remember, sometimes the smallest voices can lead us to the biggest miracles.